Welcome back. In this video, the goal is to display at which exercise we currently are at, and therefore we are just going to change the background color of the item that we're currently at. So of the exercise that we're currently at. So let's go ahead and implement that. Therefore, we will need to go over to our exercise status adapter. Okay, so here, what we're doing is we're binding the view holder, right? So we are binding the view holder item, which is currently just a text. But I also want to update the current item. And I want to make sure that the completed item in the UI is also changing the color. And that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and set all of that up. So here I'm going to check when the model.get is selected is true, then do something. Then we have the case where model.get is completed is set to true, do something, and then we have the else block. Okay, where either of them or both of them are inactive. Okay, so we have this else block as well. So now we need to think of what do we want to do in each of the cases. So the thing that I want to change is I want to change the text view items background property. Okay, so what is this text view item? Again, it's this binding text view. So this thing here, this little text. And this text view, I want to set its background to not be item circular color gray background, but I want to use maybe a white background instead, for example. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we can set the background by using the context compat. We have done that before, but it has been a while, so let me go through it again. So we use this context compat and we get a drawable. We need to pass in the context, and we cannot just say this because this doesn't exist, so we're not in the context of a class at this point. We need to get the context of the class, so we get it from the item view dot context. The item view is the view of the recycler view holder. Okay, so it's from the internal class, and from there we can get the context. So we just say, okay, where is this item being displayed? And then we get its context. And then we can now use the drawable. So r.drawable, and then I'm going to use item, and I think we don't have it yet. So let me just create another one. I'm going to call it, so let me duplicate. Which one would it be? I think this gray color background. Let me duplicate it. So copy and paste. And let me call it circular thin color accent border. Okay. And now there I just want it to be oval and the color should be white. So here we can just use white as the color, but then I also want to have a stroke surrounding it. So let me add a stroke with a width of 5 or 0.5 super thin, 0.5 density pixels, and our accent color. So this green color. So we just want to have a green border surrounding it. Maybe 0.5 is too little. 1 dp maybe is a little more visible. So basically a super thin stroke around the color. So I want to use this item now. So it was the item thin color accent border. Okay, so this is the drawable that we just created, and I want to assign this as the background of my text view item. So of this number that we see here. All right. And I'm going to change this text color of it as well. So holder.tvitem.set text color. There's a method for that. And not here, but color. And here we just can use color.parse color. And not colors, but color.parse color from a string. And I'm just going to hard code it here. You could, of course, just use an internal color as well. But I'm going to be fine like this. Okay, and then I can just copy this code and put it into get is completed. And there I just need to set it to, well, I'm going to set it to the color accent background to the green background. So we know that these are the ones that we have completed. So what we'll have is green for the ones that we completed, white for the ones that we are currently at, and gray for the ones that we haven't finished yet. Okay, so what is the else block then? Well, there I'm going to set it to be gray. Okay, so here background will be the item circular color gray background, which is the default that we have already. And as a text, we can use this same text color here as well. And by the way, when we're using this green color, I think having this gray color is not as nice as just having a white background. So here I'm going to use triple or 6 times F in order to get this white background. Okay, so now we get it based on the model value. So based on the value of the individual item, but we're never actually triggering this change. So now we need to find a good spot where to trigger this change. And that would be in our exercise activity. So what do you think? Where would be a good point to change the background color of the ones that we finished and change the one that we're currently at? I would say once we're done with an exercise and once we start with the next one. So we have our timer where we set up the exercise view, for example, and where we set up our rest timers. So those two. So let's start with the set rest progress bar. Okay, so here in our rest timer on finish, before we set up our exercise view, what we should do is we should check for the current item that we're at. So exercise list at the current exercise position, set selected, set is selected. We should set that to true. So when we are at the rest progress bar, we set the current exercise to true. And at the same time, we need to make sure that our exercise adapter is being notified about that. So we need to call notify data set changed, because if we don't do that, it will not change the recycler view's appearance or anything, because it doesn't know that the data has changed. Because what we have now is an entirely data-driven recycler view. We're not changing the appearance of the recycler view manually, but what we're doing is we're saying we change the data and the recycler view itself should change the appearance based on the data. So now we're notifying the adapter that the data has changed, so the adapter will run on bind view holder once again, and also on create view holder. So basically it will call these methods once again, and it will then see, okay, well, I'm just going to use the latest data or the latest property values for those data. So I'm gonna see, is the item selected? So the current exercise, or is the exercise completed? Is the else case the case? So either way, it's going to do the right thing now. So that is once we set the rest progress bar. But then once we are done, and let me just copy that. Once we are done with an exercise, which is in the moment where we have the timer for our exercise progress bar, so this one here, then we need to do the same thing, but in the other way around. Okay, so we need to go ahead and on finish here. So once we are inside of, well, actually in the on finish in general, we don't care if we are inside of a particular exercise item or not. So here we're going to set is selected to false and set is completed to true. So let me copy this line here, and set is completed. I'm going to set that to true, because now the current exercise that I was at is completed. And then we are setting up the rest view, which internally will then, internally is going to here increment by 1. So once the exercise is done, it's going to prep for the next one. So let's run it and see if this is actually the case. So there we are, jumping jacks. Let's see if it's going to change it once it's finished. So on finish, it should get the next exercise, which is going to be 2. And you see it's the current one is set to white and the next one is still gray. So now after those 30 seconds are over, it will take the number 2, will make it white and make this one green because we finished it already. And if we look at our exercise status adapter, we set it to be green. So let's see this transition where it goes from white to green. There we are, it goes to green, but this one doesn't go to white yet because it only goes to white once it's done with the relaxing phase or the rest phase. And you see now it goes to the white color. Perfect. So now you see how you can create such a recycler view, very customized, really like the appearance is all custom made and you could change it to whatever you like. But generally speaking, it now has this appearance that we wanted, where we now see which exercises we have already done, which one we're currently at, and then we see how many are still to be done for us. So now it will turn green once we're done with wall sit. And I hope you did the wall sit exercise, and now the next one will be to do 30 seconds of push-ups. So maybe you can do 30 push-ups in that time. Well, depends of course on how clean you do them. Okay, so that's it for this video. See you in the next one.